Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont. And as you'll be able to tell in a moment, we are not in the studio. We are actually with Washington County's Mental Health Services, and we're helping to celebrate their 50th anniversary this year. And the program is incredible. The setting is wonderful, and there's a lot of people here that are supporting the Washington County Mental Health. I'm going to ask Mary Moulton, who is the Executive Director, to come speak with us, and after Mary will be Kirk Postlewaite, who's the Director of Communications and Development. So enjoy the program, and Mary, take it away.
Hi, I'm Mary Moulton, the Executive Director at Washington County Mental Health Services. Welcome to our 50th anniversary celebration. We are celebrating the incredible programs we have here at Washington County to serve our community, and we are welcoming all of our community partners joining us this evening.
Good evening. I'm Kirk Postlewaite, Communications and Development Director here at Washington County Mental Health. And tonight is our 50th anniversary celebration. And we have a room full of people from across the board, from clients, family members, community business, corporate sponsors, dignitaries in the mental health world, local politicians, and just a lot of people who really care about what we're doing. We're so excited. There's a buzz in the room. We have a stage up front where we're going to have several different presentations this evening. Mary Moulton, our Executive Director, is going to be emceeing most of the evening. We have something from our Developmental Services Division, the Communication Alliance. They're going to do some personal expressions and a book dedication. We also have someone telling their personal recovery story. And she's been with us for many years and is now actually our board vice president. And then we have a video from our Choice Academy, which is our alternative middle and high school at our children's division that will be showing later in the evening. We have a duo, Paul Miller and Willa Mamet. Paul is a 30-year employee here at Washington County Mental Health, and they're going to play us a couple of songs. We have a wonderful dinner from Le Petit Gourmet. We have harp music playing in the background, if you hear that, to kind of set the mood. And then over there along the wall, we have our 50 points of hope and support over 50 years, which is essentially 5 decades demonstrated visually through all the many things that have happened here at Washington County Mental Health since we were formed in 1967. And it's a wonderful visual display by a wonderful artist named Angelique, and we're so pleased that she could do that for us. And then we also have art in the far corner, which is from our Developmental Services Division and the Learning Network, and they have a collective called Shockwave that they put together, artwork, poetry, various expression from each member, and it's wonderful. And then along the walls we have some artwork from one of our communities, CSP, Community Support Program clients, who's generously allowed us to display her art here this evening, and it's amazing. So we're really excited. This is a big event for us. It's certainly also part of our representing ourselves as a really thriving, vibrant organization in the community who's looking to partner and make Central Vermont and Washington County a very healthy, well community going into the future.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Morris, and I work for Congressman Welch out of his Burlington office. And I'm so grateful to be here today. Unfortunately, he isn't able to attend, but gives his warmest wishes. And I have a letter from the Congressman that I'd like to read for you all. Dear friends, congratulations to Washington County Mental Health Services for 50 years of providing essential health services to individuals and families in your community. I regret that I am unable to be with you in person for this wondrous celebration. We are all proud to see how much this organization has grown, how far-reaching its services are, and the important role its staff plays in the community. As a society, we have begun to recognize that there is no distinction between mental health and physical health. We cannot have one without the other. You are at the forefront of this evolution. I commend you for your leadership in advocating for a more holistic approach to overall health. My work in the United States Congress is informed and inspired by the good work of organizations like Washington County Mental Health. I will keep your agency in my thoughts as I continue to fight for mental health parity funding, and program flexibility that enables you and your staff to continue to provide so many vital services to this community. Again, congratulations on this impressive milestone. I wish you all the best for the next 50 years, and I look forward to seeing what you accomplish next. Thank you.
I want to welcome you all to the 50th anniversary celebration of Washington County Mental Health Services. I'm especially proud that I was born in Washington County, and I want to take a moment to honor your dedication to building self-determination and resilience and recovery within our communities. Our mental health system has evolved a great deal in 50 years, but our work to advocate for it and fully fund and find creative community solutions, that's always ongoing. That's why just last week, I was happy to announce that Vermont has been awarded a $10 million grant from SAMHSA, S-A-M-H-S-A, which you know well. This will facilitate a new comprehensive approach to health, including mental and emotional and physical health for our children, but also for their families. You know, mental illness does not discriminate, and neither should our healthcare system. When I was a prosecutor, I often saw how the lives of individuals and families were helped most with the support of a mental health professional, not jail time. And that's why I've long championed programs that support the long-term success of those facing substance abuse or homelessness and mental illness. It's not a one-day thing, it's long-term. And each year, nearly 1 in 5 people in our country experience mental illness. Far too many of them don't receive the treatment when they need it. No individual in need of help should ever be denied services. So thanks to your community support programs, your outpatient services, and youth outreach, Washington County Mental Health is helping to ensure Vermonters have the best possible quality of life. I know that communities like ours need the resources to respond quickly and appropriately when somebody is in crisis. And without those resources, intervention comes too late, or worse, not at all. I'm working to ensure that agencies like yours are not affected by the disastrous cuts, the spending cuts proposed by this administration. I remember when this organization began under the leadership of Dr. Roger Strauss, in no small part due to his vision for community-centered mental health care. Vermont's health system continues to improve its support systems for people who do have psychiatric disabilities. I've heard from so many of my fellow Vermonters over the years about the impact Washington County mental health has had in their lives and the lives of their loved ones. Crisis intervention, community support services, your team of dedicated professionals has made a world of difference in our communities. And this Washington County native appreciates it. So I thank you. I wish you all the best for this exciting anniversary celebration.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and it is wonderful to have the support we have from our federal delegation. Now I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Mary Moulton. Mary has been employed by the organization for over 25 years, working her way up in the organization as a passionate, knowledgeable, and innovative leader. Mary has also served 1 year as Commissioner of Mental Health, just prior to her appointment as Executive Director. She is frequently designated by her peers and called upon by state government officials to be the voice for mental health issues in this state. Mary?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You came. Woo! I'm so excited. All right. I love you too. So seriously, you know, as I look around the room at who came this evening, I just thought we really maybe should cancel this party and have a meeting and fix some of the problems in our system. So, who's in this room? Let's think about it. We've got our legislators, and I want to thank them first because, where are they? Over here? We've got Representative Topper McFawn from Barrytown, Representative Rob LeClaire from Barrytown, Representative Mary Hooper from Montpelier, Representative Ann Donahue from Northfield, Teresa Wood, did you make it? Teresa from Waterbury, and Senator Ann Cummings from Montpelier. And always, although not seated, our Honorable Senator Bill Doyle. We have an incredible board of directors and staff, family members, peers, and community members. Washington County Mental Health, you out there? You're out there. Advocates. We have advocates, old and new. We have state colleagues, foundations, healthcare organizations that have joined us this evening, executive directors, the seasoned and wise, and by those I mean my predecessors. That would be Roger Strauss, first executive director. Paul Dupre, the second executive director. And then there's me, third time's the charm, baby. And we have new and creative executive directors that have joined us. If you get out of line, I want you to know that we have law enforcement in the room, but it's okay because I've got the best lawyers here too, and the best financial institution just in case you've got to get post bail. So, Central Vermont Medical Center, you here? There you are, right there. Thank you. Docs and administrators, Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice. We have housing reps here this evening from the state and the region in addition to our shelter. We have private counselors extraordinaire, and we have some media reps here as well. And we have our businesses. We have businesses who have been loyal to us through time, providing us with the necessary bricks and mortar that we need to function, as well as the goods to provide the infrastructure. So our community is here, and I thank you all. While we know we have to solve some problems, we won't have the meeting. We're actually here to celebrate. We have so much to celebrate. I started working here 28 years ago and can honestly say that I never regretted it. Well, maybe there was once. Maybe Roger, there was that lawsuit, Roger. You know what Roger said to me when this lawsuit happened? He said, Mary, don't worry about it. After the first lawsuit, the second one's just like drinking a glass of water. One reason, we have great relationships that are demonstrated here this evening, and it's those relationships that sustain us through hard times. Washington County began with a mission in 1967 of addressing people who have mental illness, developmental disabilities, and substance abuse issues, and we've continued to this day. It's our mission to assist people to get back on their feet and work towards self-determination and recovery. But we have more people coming through our door every year. The numbers don't go down, the needs go up. We moved the dial a bit this year by receiving appropriation from our legislature, and we are so grateful for that. But we are still falling behind, and we recognize that free care is on the increase, and preventive programming, for example, like wellness, where we can do yoga and mindfulness and nutrition. Those things that people who live in poverty can't afford are also things that we can't afford. So we are holding on tight to providing the services, but also recognizing that we have to do some fundraising in order to achieve our mission vitally. So we're embarking upon that, and you'll hear a little bit about that this evening. I would assure you that any contribution you ever make to Washington County Mental Health goes toward working to benefit our clients. Now, the governor had planned to come this evening, and he well understands our mission. He had to notify us that he had to switch gears. I realize I said switch gears. I don't think he's at Thunder Road. It is fair time. Maybe he's at the fair. But having met with the governor this year, who's very supportive of our needs, and he has written us a letter which I would like to share with you. Dear Washington County Mental Health Services team, I am pleased to congratulate you on your 50 years of success and thank you for your continued service to Vermont. Your work in helping to create programs for adults who experience mental illness and developmental disabilities, as well as children and families who are struggling through mental health, substance issues, and trauma, have made a lasting impact on the central Vermont community and changed things for the better. In 2016 alone, you touched the lives of nearly 7,000 individuals in Washington County. Thinking about that number and multiplying it over the past 50 years makes it clear to see how far your reach has extended into the community. Your hard work and compassion for others has not gone unnoticed, and I thank you for working to improve the lives of others. Again, congratulations on celebrating 50 years of service, and thank you for your work on behalf of Vermonters. Sincerely, Philip B. Scott, Governor. I hope you had a chance to take a look at our graphic history displays. We've had our history displayed by decade, just depicting program development through the years, the evolution of the voice of people receiving services, and we also see their work on legislative parity and advocacy, both for staff and clients. This is you're going to be up, so please take time after the evening to just loiter and take a look at it. It's very impressive. So as we share some of the stories with you and applaud a few of our all-stars this evening, peel back the years a bit with our keynote speaker and rejoice in art and in music this evening with our harpist Judith Byron, who played earlier, and Paul and Willa, who will play during our program. We want to keep in mind that what we truly work on is hope and support, and that is what keeps us all going. When we talk about hope and support, it leads me to introduce our first speakers. We understand that this looks different for each and every person. It's important that we have an array of best practices so that people can participate fully in life's opportunities. I learned a long time ago from a very special person, Tracy Thresher, that we need to listen closely in order to understand that people who we initially think might not be able to communicate can actually do so if given the right tools, supports, and opportunities, and they have so much to say. To share, enrich, and educate us regarding how empowering people can make a difference. I'd like to welcome our Communication Alliance and hear the voices and messages of Chris Medina, Connor Cleveland, and Tracy Thresher. Thank you. So one thing I wanted to let folks know, of course, is that we are a little behind schedule. But you know, every 50 years we do this. So you just stay right here. I'm not letting you out of the room until we're done. we're gonna go through our program, and we've got some wonderful features ahead, as well as song. I want to get to our keynote, and I have a special message that I want to give about this. Our keynote speaker this evening is Con Hogan, except Con cannot be here this evening. Yesterday, Con had a health event, and so he was just not able to make this event. While he was in the emergency room, he was having his wife Jeanette call us because he was more worried about us. And we are more worried about Con. He is doing fine. And because family takes care of family, his daughter Ruth is here to give his speech. Now, come on up, Ruth. Con knows this system very well, and he wrote this speech when I called him a few months ago. Con was a major force, I don't know if some of you may know this, in closing brand new training school and reducing the number of beds at the Vermont State Hospital. And that's what caused designated agencies like ours to bring people into the community. You know, as I read Con's accolades, I thought, what do I pick to say about this guy? He was the chair of the National Advisory Committee for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Initiative on Strengthening Family Health Access for Children. Advisory Committee member for the National Center for Children in Poverty. The director of the Permanent Fund for the Well-Being of Vermont's Children. Former chair of the Vermont College of Fine Arts, right here. A current member of the Green Mountain Care Board, and that's where you may hear about him most today. He also was the author and co-author of 6 books, and I'm sure you can imagine a few on healthcare, but also a few on who he met along the way. And that's where I settled when I was thinking of Con. In spite of all those incredible accolades, Con's a man who has dedicated his life to making the world a better place. And I felt really privileged and feel very privileged to have met him along the way. And now I'm equally privileged to have met his daughter, Ruth Hogan Paulson, and his wife, Jeanette, who is here this evening. Please welcome Ruth. She is going to work to deliver Con's speech, and he has told her she cannot cut anything out of it. Ruth Hogan Paulson.
That's true. I said, don't you think it's a little long? Yeah, I had to make a deal with my dad yesterday when he was getting in the ambulance and he refused to go. I said, you have to go. He said, then you have to read my speech. I said, I'll read it. So here we are. Thank you for having me, and congratulations to you all. This is from my dad. I will not cut anything out. Sorry. Dear good people, first, serious congratulations on your 50th. It's quite an achievement, particularly in the wild and woolly environment in which we are living these days. That means you were established in 1967, 4 years before my family and I came to Vermont. That means that I've had the privilege of watching and even participating in the development of 92% of your organized life. That's my dad, always with the data. What a privilege. It's good to be old. You are around long enough to appreciate what has come before you. You can see patterns of flow. You can truly appreciate things that go well in an environment where true and substantial change is hard to come by. There have been many major changes over these 50 years, and they will continue to happen. I've had the deep privilege of working in and out of Vermont government for many years. I've worked for Governor Dean Davis, governor, and every governor thereafter, except for Jim Douglas. That truly gives me a wonderful perspective. But now to the subject of mental health, which includes both institutions and the community-based mental health work. You cannot separate the two. Back in the mid-1960s, I was working on the New Jersey Department of Institutions and Agencies, which at the time was organized like Vermont's Agency of Human Services, which came later. I was asked to review some records out of the 20s and 30s from the Greystone Institution. In those years, Greystone was a massive, multi-thousand person institution that had an amazing array of patients assigned there. For any of you with knowledge or interest in that area, Greystone was the place where Woody Guthrie, a fabled folk singer in the area, died. Thank you, Dad. I had been given an interesting assignment, namely to review piles of old Greystone records in the hopes that they could be organized and saved. I was doing homework at one point on what they call today schizophrenia. In my search for antecedents, I was horrified when I found out that over a 10-year period, 250,000 teeth had been removed from the mouths of patients at Greystone. I had to learn more. What I learned was that there was a theory in play about symptoms that today are added up to label as schizophrenia. It was called the foci theory. The clinical idea was that this particular expression of the disease was located in the teeth, and that the remedy, therefore, was to simply remove the teeth from the patient. Over 250,000 teeth. And amazingly, 25% of patients who were treated had a recovery. Today, we call that spontaneous remission. This sounds horrifying today, but it was science's best at the time. I've recently been reading a little book entitled A Comprehensive Welfare Program for Vermont, which was written in 1943. Included in the welfare context was mental health. Also included in this context was TB Sanatorium in Pittsburgh, the Weeks School, child welfare, and blind assistance, the Windsor Prison, and the new psychiatric centers. Vermont had over 5,000 people in one institution or another at the time. I was 2 years old at the time. It really wasn't that long ago. Then in 1967, Washington County, Vermont established a mental health designated agency. Suddenly, there was a major new way of thinking about mental health. Considering mental health in the community opened up a whole new way of thinking. We could now undertake programs to avoid institutions and to help people get better when they left an institution. We could now think about many permutations of undertaking earlier and preventative programs through working deeply with schools as an example. It also opened the door to the development of new information about the unbelievable power and future potential about what can happen if a child's brain develops well, excuse me, and what happens when they do not. The relatively new studies about ACE and what happens to children well into the future, depending on the degree of what they have experienced trauma as a young person, ought to wake all of us up. And the ever-improving ability to scan the brain early in life is proving ever more important data on what to expect in the future of a child. The point here is that the kind of work we do has changed and is changing rapidly, and we are slower changing than the new knowledge requires. I'm a founding board member of Permanent Fund for Children. It's extremely difficult to get the legislature to act times on early childhood development, including our foundation's sweet spot, the power of adequate and high-quality childcare. This is because of the incremental approach to legislation in the realm, not enough money to go around. In my view, Act 48 of 2010, which called for single-payer health care, was an exception. It called for an upheaval in health care. Unfortunately, tiny Vermont could not pull it off, so we took the next step, a statewide Accountable Care Act organization, which in addition to some of the other major goals, calls for the integration and funding of mental health with physical health. That process is underway and will result in major changes for the better. An all-payer can also provide the resources for mental health and early childhood development if we get our act together. Not dealing substantially with mental health and early childhood development in a major way is dangerous. It's dangerous not only for the future health of our children, but for the future economy of Vermont, as we truly need children growing healthy to be our economic drivers for our future. This is particularly true in the Southwest Vermont, where they are projected to lose population over the next 20 years. The census projects that Chittenden and Washington counties will grow, but at a slow 2%. We know a lot more today about the science on all aspects of mental health, but I'm willing to bet that with the rapid development of what we know and how rapidly our knowledge is changing, that looking forward 80 years from now, as we look back 80 years to Greystone, we will be equally amazed as we review the practice and knowledge of yesterday and today. The same is certainly true for physical health, particularly as they come together. There is a major message in this story. Do not be satisfied by what we think we know today, and don't believe that what we know is inviolable. Things are changing rapidly, particularly in the understanding of how the brain develops and how the importance of early childhood development. We have to stay on a progressive curve. Another glimpse from the more recent past was Windsor Prison, 1972, 48 years ago. It was a period of rapid deterioration. The prison was built in 1808 when Thomas Jefferson was president. The health department had recently designated the prison unfit for human habitation. One of the more famous prisoners, who everyone at the prison believed was seriously mentally ill, had a practice of behaving so badly that on 3 occasions he was transferred to the old state hospital in Waterbury. Once there, it was only a brief period of time before he would escape. He was good at that. He wasn't as mentally ill as people thought. Time passed. Soon after I retired being the Secretary of Human Services in 1999, I received a phone call from Larry at my home. I was very surprised. Larry went on to let me know what his life had been like over the 25 years since he had been at the prison, and stunned me when he told me that he was now a correctional officer at the Chittenden County Correctional Facility. I checked in with John Gorchak, the commissioner, who told me that yes, in fact, it was true, and that Larry was actually one of the best officers they had ever had there. During my period of temporary insanity in 2001, when I ran for governor, Larry was my driver. He was deeply involved with community mental health. We became good friends, and he has settled nicely into a small Vermont community and is doing beautifully. The message of this story is that people do change, and they can even change dramatically, but you all know that, but much of the public does not. My next story, I told you it's long, is about the closing of the Brandon Prison School in the early 90s. Brandon was a vestige of the old system of very large training schools for the developmentally disabled around the country. I give credit to New Hampshire for being the first state to get out of the training school business, and Vermont was a close second. For example, one of the women at the Agency of Human Services who I knew well wrote me a brutal letter. I did not know that she had a son at Brandon. He had been there a long time. She recounted the agony that she was going through on behalf of her son because of the impending closure. It was a letter that frankly rocked me. We went forward with the closure, which was bittersweet for many. Time passed. 3 years later, after the training school was closed, I received a second letter from her. She had retired and grown closer to her son, who had been assigned to a new local group home. Her letter was ecstatic to praise as what had happened between her son and her family. It was a true awakening. One of the lessons of this story is that when presented well with new resources in the community, communities will accept change as long as they perceive that the people who need help are getting help. An even more important lesson is the strength of the culture of communities is essential in helping human beings. There is more usable value in communities than all the budget power in the state of Vermont. This is something to remember as the budgets will continue to tighten. Community mental health agencies thrived as a result of closing Brandon because virtually all the money assigned to Brandon had been reassigned to the community mental health and developmental programs. The money was not scooped up by the state offices to cover other shortfalls. Those monies were used to enhance the community programs and served our people well. The community programs for a while developed and thrived. We were the best in the nation. Then began a long period of neglect from the government, resulting in true crisis that we have in our community programs today. You received some important help from the legislature and its administration this past year with the money set aside for salary increases. But on the grand scale of things, this is a very long way to go. When you don't have the resources to serve all of those who you required to serve by law, things go seriously wrong. The Green Mountain Care Board, of which I am a member for one more week, played quite a significant role in getting that salary money appropriated. But your Mary Moulton played the largest role. Solving the overall resource program is going to take sustained attention. In addition to the increasingly obvious problems you are experiencing, there are some great things happening in the community level. For example, in your organization, we are seeing the following initiatives: alternative emergency placement for youngsters who are caught up in hospital emergency rooms, providing housing for homeless individuals, a relatively low staff turnover rate even in a period of almost full employment in our economy, thinking about tiny house projects with Lamoille County Mental Health, working with the hospital that you have just opened a bed for people with alcohol addiction. There is also a robust farm-to-school program in place now. These are all exciting initiatives. This is because we're talking less about specific organizations and more about the development of human beings and what each of our organizations can contribute to the development of others. The common theme is a set of partnerships with other organizations. This is a very healthy sign of progress. One of the most important things you might think about doing is to create an environment of outcomes and indicators to measure both the activity and outcomes of the work of all of your partners in Washington County. Every year, you need to publicly post a report of the results of your work, both good and bad. It gives the community confidence that the people are doing work together and know that you are doing the work well. Some final and general comments. There's still 5 pages, so. Over about a 10-year period after I left as secretary, I had the privilege of working around the world primarily on how to measure progress over time regarding the overall health of children. This came about as the result of a book a colleague, Dr. David Murphy, and I wrote in 2002 entitled Reframing the Responsibility for Well-Being. The book hit the internet and the phone began to ring. I worked in 10 countries over this time: England, Scotland, the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Norway, the Netherlands, France, Israel, Austria, and Chile. Each of these countries have strong physical and mental health care at about half of our per capita cost. They all have some form of single-payer care. They spend 2 to 3 times more per capita on human services, which results in a very solid and strong immunization system to people problems. They also have a very strong gun control programs, particularly in Australia. They have all very early child development programs, particularly in France, Finland, and Norway. They are so far ahead of us. When we need a social revolution in this country, including Medicaid for all and mental health and physical integrated health care, we need a big change. And now some words about the challenge and challenges of substance abuse. Deaths from overdoses in the United States last year were 30% higher than all the deaths over the course of the Vietnam War. In Vermont, we had approximately 120 overdoses last year. In 1971, a gentleman by the name of John All had purchased a motel in central Vermont and was intending to open a heroin treatment center. He was looking for clients. He approached the Department of Corrections to find candidates. We only could find one person in the whole department who was addicted to heroin. Today, my goodness. The disaster of opioid use and death is overwhelming our systems of care. Major organizations have been deeply affected. Corrections, mental health, and of course child protection and families, our educational system, our health care, the list could go on. Thankfully, Vermont accepted this challenge during Governor Shumlin's term, and we have fought hard to make the progress of treatment systems solid. We've made progress on serious wait lists and treatment programs, but we are frightfully behind frightfully behind on making progress on the most important part, which is prevention. There is but a pittance of money, mostly provided through Senator Leahy's office for essential prevention. We are beginning to talk about it, but we haven't done much about prevention yet. People, this is your world. It is the only way out of this mess. We all need to grab a hold of prevention and substance and opioid abuse as the fundamental premise of our work at this moment. You will never make progress as a system until you and other organizations and partners truly own this problem. You folks are our communities. You have the best chance for making progress. The ACO has a responsibility to reduce the rate of opioid use under the all-payer agreement. You need to partner deeply with them because they have the money to help you. It's time to wrap these remarks up. I want to start by seriously thanking and commending 3 primary leaders of this organization since it was created 50 years ago. Roger Strauss was a good friend. Since the center was kind of on my way home from work, I would occasionally stop by to get a dose of Roger wisdom when I was struggling with a tough problem. He never failed me. In fact, on one occasion, he turned the tables on me and skillfully talked me out of $250,000 to put into early childhood development programs in Washington County. He had the big picture even then. After Roger left, Paul Dupre would call and ask me over for coffee. They were wonderful conversations as we would scheme to figure out ways to educate and engage the public in your work. I haven't known Mary as long or as well, but I have watched and admired her work over the years. The book says she's a winner. She played a key role over the last couple of years to get the help you need, which truly paid off this year from the legislature. Compliments also to Ken Liebertoff, Julie Tesler, all of Vermont Cares, who over the years have worked so hard for you. My sincere congratulations on 50 years of hard work and progress, along with the hope for the future, as you continue to find ways to improve the well-being of the 70,000 Vermonters who live in Washington County and beyond. I truly salute you, Con.
So it's a lot easier to see you guys than to just talk to a video. So, but thank you, Susan. First, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. I want everybody to do it with me. This is a nice little trick that I learned, and since I'm so nervous. So everybody, so 1, 2, and 3. Nice, thank you. So last Monday, I was on my way to work really early, and on the VPR morning news, I heard the latest on a legislative working group assembled in last session to study the fact that, and we've heard it a couple of times in with the speakers tonight, 1 in 8. Hi.
Hi, you're a lovely person and no one can hear you.
Oh, really?
I say that from a loving place.
Oh, good.
Okay.
This better? Okay, good. Anyway, on the news, 1 in 8 Vermont kids have 3 or more adverse childhood experiences. That's called trauma. Physical abuse, sexual violence, poverty, hunger. So this legislative working group was assembled to study it this summer and fall. And I thought, wow, that's great. And but I also thought, okay, I'm not impressed yet. I've heard this before. And but I listened further. And I heard the chairman of this group say, trauma continues. Trauma is in the body. Wow, a government spokesman said this. Perhaps there's hope for mental health and physical health parity after all. So I'm continuing. This is a little story, but here's my story. And I am one of those Vermont kids with an adverse childhood experience with trauma. And I experienced sexual violence as a 6 or 7-year-old from a neighbor. And it was a terrible secret, and I kept it very well for 25 years. I went from not remembering at all to severe depression and anxiety, 12 psychiatric hospitalizations at CVMC, Dartmouth-Hitchcock, and Brattleboro Retreat. I've got 8 butterflies that represent all of my discharges from Brattleboro Retreat. But anyway, that's why I know I was there. Anyway, so as things went along, Washington County Mental Health Services, they were there for me every step of the way. Day hospital and screeners, to home intervention and case management, from Green Mountain workforce, to learning how to work again, to retraining at Vermont Technical College, a 2-year degree in 6 years. Green Mountain Workforce was my shepherd as I started my own landscaping design build business in 2000. I was still on Social Security disability. I started my own business because I couldn't work for maybe more than 2 hours. And so I couldn't very well try to get a job at any real business. But anyway, I got off disability in 2009, and in the same year, I finally ended my client relationship with Washington County Mental Health. On the personal side, Washington County Mental Health taught me from the beginning how to get better, plus keep my relationship, my loving connection to my family at the same time. Because of heavy medication, I could no longer drive. In 1990, I had to leave my family, my husband and 3 young kids. And I had to do that in order to live in Montpelier and receive treatment. I'm glad to say that my family relationships remain strong and close, and it not only helped me, but my children's growing up healthy was essential in all of this as well. Recovery is lifelong. It's normal. It's not just for us that have had challenges. It's been 30 years, actually this month, since my first hospitalization, and I am still learning and discovering in this journey. Recovery is positive, it's self-affirming, strengthening. It's helped me survive a deep black hole, but it has also helped me in my regular life events. My mother's death, my granddaughter's death, running a business day to day, physical health issues. Recovery is different for everyone. However, I want to point out 5 principles that remain the same in everyone's journey. I list them here as I bring my recovery story to a close, because teaching these principles gives people assurance and hope that recovery is possible. These principles were identified in 1997 by Mary Ellen Copeland and come from her RAP, Concept of Wellness Recovery. By the way, Washington County Mental Health had that program and had introduced it in 1998, I think, according to the timeline over there. So these principles are hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, support. These are not just words or somebody's philosophy. When I tell my story, as I'm doing now, I give people hope. When I take responsibility to acknowledge my challenges and try to help others learn from my journey, I am promoting my ongoing wellness. I am being an advocate for myself as a survivor and for others so that they can survive too. When I tell my story, it's remarkable. I get support in so many ways. Today, you are my support. Thank you.
We now want to move on to 4 awards for All-Stars that have been very important to us through the years. I have 4 awards under here. I'm going to reach under.
The staff here are really helpful here when they are trying to help you get through all these problems and help you try something new here. I have people supporting me and having teachers help me with the stuff that I need help with. And here I can actually get that because it's such a small school that I can actually get the help that I need.
They've given me space when I needed it and then talked to me when I asked and, what's the word, advocated.
The way that staff have taken the time to come aside and be able to pull you out and help you when you're in need of it, especially when work, because I'm not very good at it, and they take their time and they show you how you can progress forward and keep working and stuff.
They do it at my pace. I make good connections, good long connections where I can still call them friends or adopted family.
Not like rushing me is helping me get into the program and what's happening, what I need to do.
Most of the time they pushed me to see and realize that, school is a lot more important than kids these days feel it is. And this is my last chance, this is your last resort, you gotta get it right this time or there's nowhere else you can go.
My personal issues with my fears for life, all the big questions, they help me through it.
I just think that they kind of pushed me in a way that I needed to be pushed finally, so it just kind of got me motivated, hey, I'm kind of getting a break here, so I might as well try.
Hands-on experience. I love science because you can do experiments in there. Being up and active helps me. That's what I like doing.
Since I'm graduating this December, I'm thinking about going to college first.
I've always had a passion to be a law enforcement officer.
Opening a bakery or chocolate shop. Yeah, it's too cold here. So probably California, Los Angeles. Someplace warm where there's a lot of nightlife.
I might actually go into college, maybe, I'm not sure. But I'm actually going to be a combat medic in the Army. Maybe construction, I like doing that stuff. It's open, it's not a lot of writing, it's not sitting down a lot. You're up and active.
I hope to go to college, and I hope that everybody else in the school gets to, and the people that come here, I hope that they get the opportunity to get further with their education and get a good job on it.
With my skills, I'm looking forward to actually helping kids in my previous situation, because there's a lot of downturned youth who feel that they can't accomplish anything.
I'm learning pretty much getting to know people, getting to know what I'm about. In the future, hopefully when I become a police officer, I'll remember all these things that they told me.
And I'll try to help the kids who are in my situation, the kids who are bullied, the kids who just don't have confidence. The kids who are suicidal at times, drug addiction. I just want to help people with the thing I love the most.
Something around language arts. I mean, I don't know yet. Still got a lot to think about it. But gotta come to the end.
Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
We serve young people who need certain kinds of support because they're coming, many of them come from traumatic experiences or are not adjusting to the traditional school system.
You know, they're kind of the odd man out because they are trying to figure out where they fit. And we are able to create an environment where they fit so well that we are able to kind of meet them where they're at. And that's such a big piece because they don't always get to do that in a larger group population.
When I started here, I thought I would make a big impact and be able to see growth, like exponentially, and really see a lot of growth each day with the students. But it's those little milestones and those little steps that really make a big deal that help me get through the rest of the weekend.
I really like my individual sessions with the kids. Every kid is really different. Some kids like to just talk for 40 minutes and think really, really deeply, and some kids like to lay on the floor. And I think it benefits me just as much as it benefits them to switch and deliver everything that they need in that moment.
I think it's pretty amazing helping the kids find that they have a place in the world and that they can go somewhere that they never expected that they were going to go.
Like having the ability to work together with other people collaboratively and trying to help come up with solutions that some of these youth really don't know that they have those options or those solutions available to them, and teaching them how to advocate for themselves in a way that they can find the help they need.
Because we have kids who struggle and come from difficult situations so often that there's so much beauty in those aha moments.
That beyond everything that's going on for them, that they've had a lot of struggles, and that one of the things that we can provide for them is hope for their future and hope that things can get better for them. And so that's something I always try to incorporate into the work I do.
That you get to be really creative in the way that you work with them. You don't just sit across from someone. You get to go outside, and you get to be active, and you get to really show what it means to move your body and do mindfulness and how that can be helpful for them.
If they feel like they've had a successful day, it's really amazing to witness that and know that they feel good about themselves when they recognize that they're doing well, having a good day, and having fun with their peers and staff.
They show it in a way that looks big to us, and it's so rewarding to go home and feel like you've accomplished something important.
When I see them, I'm happy to see them, and I think it's refreshing to them to know that I'm someone that they can come to, and it's a safe place where each time that they come back in the morning, it's a brand new start. We start with a clean slate.
To anyone that's thinking about coming here, anyone that is going here and doesn't, feel that they're going to make it anytime soon, or that being here is just a waste of time, that, don't lose yourself, but try really, really hard.
Just realize, well, there's nothing I can really achieve by getting angry. What's done is done, and what's decided is decided, and there's nothing to really do that can change it. So
go some outside or something, get anger out, come back and try doing your work, and if they ask someone if you need help, or
just try your hardest, and you're gonna have struggles here and there, but the teachers will work you through it, and the staff will work you through it.
Maybe a coping skill, or something that can keep you busy with your hands, or or with your mind or something besides telling people to shut up or swearing at someone?
Just because you're not in the spot you want to be. Like, if you work retail and you want to be a musician or a teacher, don't let that hurt you. Because there's always a chance. I mean, everyone has to start somewhere.
Just work hard, get your way out into life.
Stay true to who you are and take the help you can get that's offered to you.
And all you have to do is just say, I need help.
It does get better. It does.
But the most important thing is don't lose yourself. Don't get caught up in trying to please everyone else. Just do what you want to do for you. What you want.
Have a little faith in me. Have a little faith in me. Have a little faith in me. Have a little faith in me.
Thank you, Children's, for that. This evening, hopefully what we've showed you as you perhaps look through our 50 years and what you've heard this evening is the voice of those that we serve. We didn't want to spend the evening just talking about us. We wanted you to learn about us and learn about the potential for all people in our community who struggle that we help. So I want to thank our staff so much for all the work that they do every day. And I wanted to thank our clients because they feed our hearts and they help us to do what we do every day. As we move forward to the next 50 years, I'll be gone. Many of us will be, but the future years ahead, there are a few things I think we really need to work on together as a community, and they've been mentioned tonight. And one thing I really implore us about before we close out is to think about how we can work together to stamp out one major impediment that happens to people who seek help for mental health, and that's the feeling that they have that there's stigma attached to get to looking for mental health treatment, whether it be in a doctor's office or a community mental health center. We've heard it again and again. I think we're really getting there. Mental health is health, and that's how we should be looking at it. Mental health care is health care, and we need to make that our rallying cry as we strive toward greater integration of efforts between and across all systems. We also need to continue to work on true integration of people with developmental disabilities into our communities where they find friends, activities, and work with their neighbors as true neighbors. And we need to build health communities and encourage youth toward high-risk, healthy behaviors through opportunities regardless of their income level. If we could just do a few of these things, we would reduce our expenses overall in health care. And those few things will keep us busy for a good long time.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us for this event. It was a great venue, great group of people in the Washington County community. This was the 50th anniversary for the Washington County Mental Health Services. It was a showcase of all the stuff that they've done in the last 50 years, as well as the services that they provide today. And on top of that, it was also talking about the types of challenges that they're going to be facing in the future. If you had watched our previous show about mental health services in Vermont, you'll know that all of our designated agencies are facing some issues in terms of how we reimburse for mental health services in Vermont. A lot of these designated agencies aren't able to provide the same level of pay as a hospital or another private employer, and for that reason they have a lot of turnover as well as difficulty hiring qualified people. So there's a lot of issues that they're working out around this. Washington County Mental Health Services is one of the leaders in the state around trying to figure this issue out and move forward from it. So definitely check out that show. You can see it on our website, vote802.com. And until next time, keep listening beyond the sound bites.